Above the West Bank, a commercial airliner descended towards Tel Aviv, carrying perhaps 100 passengers home. Below, an Israeli soldier mistook it for a drone and opened fire. This is what Hezbollah's drone war has done to one of the most advanced armies in the world. The skies are no longer trusted, the eyes are no longer sure. Netanyahu's soldiers are starting to flinch. The Israeli Defense Forces, the most technologically sophisticated military in the Middle East, have a problem. They can't tell the difference between a civilian plane and a drone. On the night of May 28th, IDF troops stationed near the West Bank settlement of Beit opened fire on an aircraft. Not a hostile missile, not a suspicious object, a civilian plane. One of dozens that routinely descend toward Ben Gurion Airport every single night. The army, to its credit, is investigating. Here's how the incident unfolded. Residents of Beit reported spotting, and we're being generous here, 4 unidentified drones overhead. The IDF was duly dispatched, nerves presumably on edge, fingers presumably on triggers. A soldier scanned the sky, a soldier thought he saw something, and then, naturally, a soldier fired at a commercial aircraft carrying, in all likelihood, at least 100 passengers. What had actually happened was far simpler. Ben Gurion Airport had rerouted its landing corridor slightly eastward. Planes approaching Tel Aviv were now passing over Beit at roughly 1,500 meters, an altitude that, under normal circumstances, would indicate a plane. The IDF is also investigating whether a police drone, their own side's drone, may have triggered the initial panic. So, Israeli soldiers may have fired at a civilian airliner because of a rerouted flight path, a friendly police drone, or simply because the night sky looked suspicious. No passengers were harmed, and the investigation continues. Now, none of this happens in a vacuum. Hezbollah has been sending drones into northern Israel and southern Lebanon at a pace that is, quite genuinely, wearing the IDF down. Since fighting resumed on March 2nd, at least 24 Israeli soldiers have been killed, the vast majority by drone. Not missiles, not artillery, drones. Small, cheap, increasingly fiber-optic guided drones that no amount of electronic jamming can touch. On May 27th, the night before troops fired at the airliner, a Hezbollah drone killed Sergeant Rotem Yanai as she ran towards a shelter. The previous day, another drone hit a home in Metula. Within a single hour on May 25th, the Upper Galilee recorded multiple intrusions, with shrapnel falling in Shemera. 24 soldiers in under 3 months. No wonder the sky looks hostile. Since the ceasefire collapsed in March, Hezbollah's drone campaign has been methodical. Patient, cheap to run, and deeply, deeply effective, not just in the physical toll it extracts, but in the psychological one. Because when your soldiers start confusing commercial aviation with enemy drones, the drones are winning. This is what sustained pressure looks like. Not a single dramatic strike, a slow erosion, night after night, alert after alert, until the sky itself becomes the enemy. The IDF will investigate, they will issue a statement, they will explain that procedures were followed, or that they weren't. Meanwhile, somewhere over the West Bank, a pilot is probably still wondering what exactly just flew past his wing. Hezbollah has released new battlefield footage claiming to show intense close-quarter combat against Israeli forces during repeated attempts to advance into the southern Lebanese town of Hadatha. The footage published by Hezbollah's military media shows what the group describes as the fourth failed Israeli attempt between May 19th and May 20th to push into the central sector town under heavy air and artillery support. According to Hezbollah, Israeli forces launched the operation with extensive aerial surveillance and armoured support, including bulldozers, and armored personnel carriers in an effort to establish control over the area. Hezbollah fighters responded with improvised explosive devices, rocket-propelled grenades, machine gun fire, and ambush tactics along the Hadassah-Rishayf road. The released footage shows Hezbollah fighters preparing weapons inside command positions while tracking Israeli troop movements through surveillance feeds and field communications. During the operation, one Hezbollah field commander was heard encouraging fighters while describing the battlefield conditions.
The vision is not clear, and this is what is available. If you support God, He will support you, and keep your feet firm.
The footage also shows direct exchanges of fire between Hezbollah fighters and Israeli troops, with sounds of explosions, gunfire, and Israeli airstrikes audible throughout the recording. Hezbollah claimed its fighters successfully detonated explosive devices against advancing Israeli units during the clashes. One of the central moments in the video showed what Hezbollah said was a destroyed Israeli D-9 military bulldozer alongside a damaged armored personnel carrier, engulfed in flames. The group claimed the vehicles were hit during the ambush as Israeli troops attempted to enter the outskirts of Hadassah. Standing beside the wreckage, one Hezbollah fighter delivered a message aimed directly at Israeli forces.
Look what we've done to it. These weak Israelis, they can't advance anymore. It is beneath our feet. You won't have any tanks left or bulldozers. We're continuing the statement of His Eminence, the martyred Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah. You shall indeed return home with your heads held high. God willing, the entire land will be liberated.
The footage concludes with Hezbollah portraying the battle as another failed Israeli ground offensive in southern Lebanon.
A new defeat for the enemy at the gates of Hadassah. Despite all the fire and intelligence efforts and the 4 attempts to occupy it, Hadassah has become a new landmark for humiliating the enemy, and another village from the proud south that taught the people of the world a lesson in sacrifice, pride, and the rejection of injustice, no matter how costly the price.
The release comes amid intensifying clashes across southern Lebanon, where Israeli forces have expanded operations beyond the ceasefire yellow line, while Hezbollah continues drone, rocket, and anti-armor attacks, targeting Israeli troops and northern Israeli communities. Hezbollah and Israeli forces are locked in some of the fiercest fighting seen in southern Lebanon in recent weeks, with drone attacks, rocket fire, and close-quarters combat intensifying along multiple front lines near the border. On May 27th, Israel's health ministry announced that 24 new casualties had been recorded on the Lebanese front, as Hezbollah escalated attacks against Israeli troops and military vehicles operating in southern Lebanon. 11 IDF soldiers have already been killed in Hezbollah attacks since the ceasefire began. According to the ministry, the total number of injuries recorded by Israel since the start of the war with Iran has now reached 8,889. Israeli authorities also said 988 casualties have been reported specifically on the Lebanese front, while 573 wounded have been admitted to hospitals since the Lebanon ceasefire agreement took effect on April 17th. The figures come as Hezbollah stepped up drone attacks, rocket fire, and close-range engagements against Israeli troops operating near border towns in southern Lebanon. According to Al-Mayadeen, some of the heaviest fighting was centered around the town of Zoutar al-Sharqiyya, where Hezbollah fighters were attempting to block Israeli advances after what the outlet described as intense Israeli preparatory bombardment involving artillery and airstrikes. Israeli officials said clashes intensified on the outskirts of the town as resistance fighters engaged advancing Israeli forces in sustained combat operations. According to field reports cited by the outlet, Hezbollah fighters used coordinated rocket barrages, artillery shells, Ababil drones, and close-quarters combat tactics against Israeli troops and armored vehicles, attempting to move deeper into the area. The report added that the clashes inflicted heavy losses on Israeli personnel and equipment, while Hezbollah maintained defensive positions throughout the night on May 26th. Reports added that Hezbollah fighters were continuing operations along riverbanks and surrounding terrain, targeting Israeli supply routes, troop gatherings, and military vehicles with drones, rocket salvos, and artillery fire. Meanwhile, Hezbollah's military media released footage it said documented recent attacks on Israeli military assets in southern Lebanon. One video published by Hezbollah showed what it described as an Ababel FPV drone strike on an Israeli Merkava tank near the town of Markaba on May 22nd. Another clip, released on May 26th, showed a drone attack targeting an Israeli Humvee in Bint Jbeil. Israeli media also reported that more than 15 explosive drones launched by Hezbollah detonated inside northern Israel amid expanding Israeli ground operations. Hezbollah said it launched a rocket barrage targeting Israeli soldiers near the town of Zotar al-Sharqiya in southern Lebanon. The group also said it targeted a Merkava tank near the town using a drone. The latest escalation comes as Israeli forces attempt to push beyond the so-called Yellow Line in southern Lebanon, while Hezbollah increasingly relies on coordinated drone warfare and sustained attritional attacks to slow Israeli advances and raise the operational cost of the campaign.